Shelby May. Oh my God, it is so good to have you here on the
Jake,
podcast.
it is an honor. It is truly an honor to be here with you. It's always an honor and so much fun when we connect. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the genesis of how I heard about you or how our paths crossed. But for viewers who are tuning into, you for the first time, and you certainly have been making a big impact and a really a pivotal figure on the circuit. But we've done a lot of, events together, and I just knew it was just time to share you with my community and the world because you have such a powerful journey, and I've seen you firsthand, in doing events with you, just how tuned in you are, how spot on and evidential the messages are, but more importantly, how they come out with a great degree of sensitivity, heart centeredness, compassion. And I know there's just so much that you have to share. But my first question for you is, I mean, now you're a registered medium with places like Helping Parents Heal that I'm a part of, and you're making your rounds, online and all over the map. Like North Carolina too, right? You
Yeah.
do a lot of stuff, but and I'm just curious for you. When did you first begin to really understand that there's something a little bit differently going on, or I'm just tuned into something that I don't know if maybe my surroundings are. When did that seed just kind of first planted your mind regarding, I refer to it as gift. I don't know if that's the same way throughout the trajectory of your life too, but I'm just
Yeah.
curious as to how this all unfolded.
Oh, such a great question. And so, where do we begin? My goodness. So, to answer that question honestly, I was always drawn as a child to seek out mediums or psychics more so, to
Mhm,
seek out psychics, and I always have. And they always told me that I had this ability, and I would kind of laugh because
mm,
I would say, "Well, you're spot on with everything else, but not this. Like, why would I be coming to you if I was psychic? Wouldn't I have those answers within me?" And they would all say, "This will unfold at the right time for you." And
mm,
so growing up, I knew that I was different. I knew I was different than my friends. I had always been sensitive, super sensitive. I would have this inner knowing with things, but not understanding that I was working with my intuition. I didn't know what intuition was. And I would ride the school bus and I would stare at some kids on the bus and I would kinda just look at them and say like, "Oh, I really feel bad for them. I could feel they're so sad." And I was really interested.
mhm,
I was drawn to people that were sad for some reason, and I didn't understand that until much later on as an adult. But I was always wanting to, help those that I felt that were sad. So if I was captain of the team in school and we had to pick people on the team, I would scope out people and I would see who would be the last to be picked, and I would choose them.
wow,
So I had this sensitivity within myself, and I just wasn't fully aware of the
mhm,
sensitivity that I had. And it wasn't until later on, I mean, I could go deep with my story here of how this really unfolded, but it was, and I will for you because I think it's kind of important, and I think that this will really resonate with a lot of people and help them. But it wasn't until later on in my life that I had a physical breakdown, a nervous breakdown, and when that happened to me, I was just surrendering to the universe. Please help me and just guide me. I knew there was something so much more from the pain that I was struggling with. And I surrendered to it. And I wound up becoming attuned to Reiki. And I had sessions for myself.
mhm,
And that really opened the gateway for me. It really did. It opened the gateway. And so if I backpedal a little bit and I tell you about my story growing up, it first started when I was 2 years old. I was at a backyard party and with family, and I guess all the kids were swimming in the pool, and I must have thought that I could swim too. Nobody had their eye on me. Well, they did, but the parents were mingling and socializing, and uh, somebody found me floating in the pool. And They quickly grabbed me. The ambulance came and did mouth to mouth resuscitation on me. And thankfully, I'm here today. But I had this fear of water since then. And I still to this day have this fear of water. It's something that I work through because I know that I am safe and I am okay. But that was the beginning stage of me not feeling safe. And then I had a lot of other things start to happen to me where I didn't feel safe in life. And I also had an experience when I was 6 years old that I saw my grandmother. She had a stroke. And I remember seeing her, and half her body was paralyzed. So it frightened me to see her that way. And believe it or not, it's my one and only memory that I have of her, of seeing her in that nursing home,
Hmm.
being able to speak or use her body. And I remember growing up, I had chronic ear infections and I was always sick growing up, stomach issues, now understanding where the stomach issues come from and all of that. But my mom would say to me, you have to take your medicine or you're going to get sick.
Hmm.
And I would be petrified to get sick because I would think that I was going to end up like my grandmother.
Mm.
And I was afraid to take medicine because I was afraid of what the medicine would do, the side effects.
Hmm.
So I would take the medicine, but the medicine didn't feel right in my body.
Mm.
So I was always hesitant to want to take. I would fight taking the medicine, but I would also fight myself and wanting to make sure that I was healing and getting better. And so I started to become actually obsessed with making sure that I was healthy so that I
Hmm.
would have control over myself. And fast forward, make a very long story short, um, it was because of the feeling of of not feeling safe in my body. What if something happens to me? Something did happen when I was 2. What if something tragic happens again? What if I lose control over my body? And so I suffered from anxiety terribly as a child. It was terrible. And I would have panic attacks and I was afraid to be alone. Um, I would have to sleep with my sister. I would have to have the lights on. I would have to have the doors locked. I would become really fearful that whatever space I was in, I wasn't comfortable in. So it was more comforting for me to be around people. And I would also remember being a child when I was alone. I remember closing my eyes and I remember seeing faces. And I didn't understand what that was. It didn't happen all the time, but it happened a handful of times that I kind of ignored it, didn't think much about it. And now, fast forward, I go through my high school years and I become much more sensitive in my high school years. Um, I did things that, high school kids do. I drank, I did my thing, but uh, it didn't feel right in my body, if that made sense. And I always had this feeling that I had to watch over my shoulder, that somebody was behind me. I felt that somebody was there, and I would turn around and nobody would be there, but I didn't feel safe.
Hmm.
So, yeah. So I I was very much liked by my friends, but I just knew I was different. And I wound up meeting who's my husband today. We're married, I don't even know how many years it is now. I guess we're married 27 years together, 30,
Wow.
34, 35, something like that. Yeah,
Mhm.
we're together a very long time. And um,
You met him probably the year I was born, in 1990.
oh gosh,
Yeah,
yeah, somewhere around there.
yeah.
91, maybe?
91 maybe, yeah, yeah.
Something along those lines, yeah. And I met him, and I realized, he was older than me. He's older. He's 5 years older than me, and he gave me attention, and I was
Mm.
drawn to that. Ooh, he's making me feel safe, and I realized that he was broken, and that's why I was drawn to him. So he's a recovering addict. He actually just hit 26 years in recovery. Yeah, February
Wow,
19th, he just hit
wow.
26 years in recovery.
Mm.
But I was drawn to him and I saw something inside of him. I knew he had a beautiful soul inside of him and I really wanted to help him. And I thought I wanted to be a therapist. And I realized all the schooling that was involved, and I wasn't ready for it. I struggled in school, I wasn't ready for it. And I didn't wind up going to college. And instead, I wound up getting pregnant with my first son. So, we my husband and I, we had a little bit of a rocky road in the beginning because he was an addict, and I thought I can heal him and help him, and I realized later on that I needed to help myself and heal myself, and I thought
Mm,
by helping him that I was, I didn't realize that it was a reflection of myself.
hmm,
So, yeah, so that's pretty much, I mean, I could go into much more detail, but that's pretty much how I had gotten started on this journey. Well, I share this because I failed to mention this.
mhm.
When I talk about having this nervous breakdown, my physical body, fast forward years later, my husband and I getting married, having children, working our kinks out. What happened was my husband started to grow because he started attending a recovery. He was in recovery.
He's on his path to sobriety, yeah.
Correct, and he was growing, and I didn't know him anymore the new way he was. I wasn't
Mm,
used to that, and I felt really lost of my sense of who am I? What is my purpose? And I was I was in this anxiety, flight or fight mode. I've had it my whole life. Panic attacks, it's always been there
right,
with me. And again, he always made me feel safe. He would always help calm my nervous system down. He would
mhm,
relax me. He was really, really good to me. And it got to a point where I couldn't handle it anymore, and I couldn't physically walk. I got up one morning and I just could not walk. And after seeing multiple doctors, I actually had a neurologist ask me if I have meditated. And I was like, meditate? No, no. And he said, why don't you go to a yoga studio and why don't you just start with breath work? And I found myself walking into a yoga studio, just crying. I don't even think I did a pose on the mat. I cried. And she said, you look like you can use a healing.
mm,
And I said, what is a healing? And she said, it's Reiki. I do energy healing. And she explained to me what it was. And I said, yeah, please. And that was my mission, Jake. That was my mission, was to heal myself at that point.
mm,
And she said, I teach this. Why don't you learn this so that you can help heal yourself? And I said, where do I sign up? And I walked into a room, maybe 8 people in the room. I knew no one. And she attuned us to
mm,
Reiki. She taught us and she tuned us, and we sat in this meditative state. And I'll never forget it. While I was meditating, I was downloaded with information for the people that were in the room. I felt their loved ones coming through,
mm,
and I had messages to give them. And I thought, wow, this is meditating? Wow, how beautiful is this? And when we got out, everybody shared their experience. And everybody said, oh, it was lovely. It was this, it was relaxing. Oh, I saw colors. And I was like, well, I have a message for you and you and you. And then I just started babbling. And I said, didn't everybody receive the same thing? And she said, no. She said, your whole life is about to change. And I said, what do you mean?
mm.
She said, you'll find out. And that was the beginning of my journey. Yeah.
Wow, wow, it's just so many layers and beautiful twists, journeys, transformations, epiphanies, and what a powerful journey that you've really just unpacked. I have so many different angles and ways that I could go within this, Shelby. My first question for you is, I know you mentioned there was an experience that you've had for a bit of time with anxiety,
Yeah.
and that was anxiety of death that you had, and just your feeling what you described that led to a nervous breakdown. From everything that you've been through, from your vantage point and your journey, what have you learned a little bit about anxiety and how that correlates to, you know, if it's like a strict mental health thing, or is that at times also maybe something beyond that? What have you learned from your personal journey with that?
So because I had this inner desire to want to heal and to help others, I knew that I had to go all in with myself. And that's just my personality. So when I had this anxiety, not as a teenager because I didn't have enough knowledge to understand at the time, but as a young adult, I read every book I can imagine
Well,
on helping me with anxiety. I needed to cure and help
mhm,
because you have to remember I was afraid of the illness and the anxiety was the illness. So how can I help it?
mhm,
And so I've learned so much about anxiety. I've learned how we get it, why we get it, how to treat it, and all the ways to control it. And it has been my number one tool because I've learned to control it. And I've learned that it's how the mind processes, it's how the mind thinks, and that we control the mind doesn't control us.
mm,
So when we're having these thoughts in our minds, we have to really take that step back to say, is this true or is this a thought?
mm,
And then talk to that anxiety. This is not serving me. You don't belong here. You don't need to tell me these things, whatever it may be to help you get through that. But for me, what has helped me tremendously is I had this willpower within myself to really, really dive in and help. And I think that's why the type of mediumship that I do, the type of work and the readings that I do really go into the soul of working with people, helping them understand their why of whatever it is that they've went through in life or whatever it is that they're, currently going through. So
mm,
I have full control over my anxiety now. Does it pop up? Absolutely. And my trigger is health. That's my trigger. When there's something in my body that doesn't feel right, my automatic response system goes to, oh, what if?
mhm,
I say to myself, okay, here I am. Well, what if it's not? What if
mhm,
it all works out? Where's the truth in this? Do we even know the truth in this?
mhm.
And I allow myself to bring myself back down. And then I just, okay, thank you. You're here. You showed yourself to me. It's time to leave. And I allow myself to get back there. But this, Jake, was years of training. Years of
Took a
training.
long time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And I'll be honest, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that because it got me where I needed to be today.
yeah,
There was a purpose behind that, and I needed to understand that. I didn't for a very long time.
mm. I know our dear friend in spirit that you were very connected to wrote a book, and maybe I'm off a little bit on the title, but it was called The Gifts Beneath Your Anxiety, something like that, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm curious for you, and
Mm,
so many people that I work with experience anxiety. Is there like particular gift or spiritual gifts that lies beyond it? Because I know, for instance, Pat Longo
yeah.
in spirit, she worked with a lot of mediums, and she was seeing
Mhm.
a running theme where if it was Teresa Caputo or just a lot of other people who she, was a mentor for and healer for, she saw a running theme of just intense anxiety and almost to the degree of paralysis like you just described. And I'm just curious to hear your vantage point about like what the gift beyond that you notice, and also like this running themes that a lot of mediums have, prior to their own transformation and or awakenings or the gifts to come, up to the surface.
Yeah, and for a long time I believed that within myself. Oh, this is what I was sensing and feeling. All this anxiety was sensing and feeling spirit. And I
Mm,
do believe that. And Pat's book is incredible. It really is such a great book.
yeah.
For those that have anxiety and then realize, wow, I am sensing and feeling spirit around me. Yes, I remember hearing voices when I was younger and all those things. And yes, that did happen to me. I didn't hear voices, but I would see faces, every once in a while. Uh, but for me, I can say that I feel personally that yes, I had anxiety as a young child, but I feel that my anxiety was because of my sensitivity of feeling unsafe,
Mhm,
because of my life situations of certain, certain situations that had happened to me, such as a young age of being 2 years old and drowning. My mom working 3 jobs, parents being divorced,
mhm,
so my sister and I being latchkey kids and having to fend for ourselves. So the safety, the security, all those different things for
mhm,
for me. So because I was so afraid of death, I also feel that spirit had to show me there's nothing to be afraid of. We're going to show you, we're going to help you.
Mhm,
And we see that you have this desire to want to help others that you always have since this young age. But
mhm,
we're going to allow you to help yourself first so that you can then help others. So that's how I feel that it really unfolded for me. But I do know that a lot of people have suffered from anxiety as a young child to find out later on in life that they do have this ability,
uh-huh.
you
Yeah,
know, to be able to connect with spirit and it's really relieving too, because once you can identify that and you allow yourself to surrender and just feel instead of being in that flight or fight mode, and you just soften and expand and allow yourself to invite spirit in, my gosh, it is one of the most healing experiences ever. I'm getting a ringing in my ear right now.
oh, wow,
It's
wow.
it is, it's one of the most healing it is so comforting. It is just so comforting. So, and I think that most mediums that have this, where they've had anxiety and they've
Mhm,
learned to embrace and unfold these abilities that they have within them, uh, there's such a shift within them, because now they've learned to accept and learn to turn it on and off. I got to a point where I couldn't even go to grocery stores. I couldn't go out to dinner with my husband. I couldn't take my kids on
wow,
vacation because every time I was in a public place, the more people I was around, the more my anxiety would increase, because I was sensing and feeling spirit. I have always sensed and felt them, but I didn't know I was feeling them. So I feel for me, there was kind of like a twofold in
mhm,
this, you know,
right,
more like, yes, I've always felt spirit, not knowing I was feeling them, but I also was so fearful of everything.
mhm,
So, but
hmm,
especially being in large crowds, that was so hard for me. I mean, I could share stories, I would take my kids to their basketball games or whatever it is. I would make sure I sat on the end of the bleacher near the exit sign near the door, because if I needed to run, I needed to run, you know? Same thing with the restaurant. My husband and I would order dinner, and all of a sudden I would look around and I would feel this energy, and I would look and I would realize that the restaurant is crowded, and I would say, throw money on the table. We have to go. We have to go. I can't do this.
right,
So it was tough. It was really tough.
mm,
I've learned to control it. I've learned to control it. And here's the thing. I know now what's my anxiety and what's spirit.
mm.
I
What
know.
spirit, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or other people's stuff too, right? I'm sure
Mhm.
you've been able to with all the clients that you work with and
Oh,
all the energetic connections, yeah, to be able to create those boundaries. There seems to be a running theme of your life and a correlationship with pain and purpose.
mhm.
And a lot of people are I always say suffering is optional, pain is an inevitable part of our journeys.
Yeah.
Um, could you, like, maybe lean into a little bit of what you found in terms of, like, the functionality of pain and how maybe people could look at what they're going through, their own challenges from the angle of the spirit realm and your personal journeys? Because it seems to me from your experiences, like all that you went through just kind of prepared you, if
In
you
most
will, for a lot of the stuff that you're doing today. But could you speak to a little bit more on that? Because there's a lot of we call in the Hebrew language sorrows. There's a lot of pain that people have, and I'm just wondering how could we engage with that a little bit differently from your insight, spirits too.
so if I'm understanding what you're saying, it's more of how do I look at the pain that I was going through to help me to understand where it is today, where how it has helped me today, right?
Yeah, and how maybe could people relate to their pain, more effectively, or for a different mindset per se? Because a
Mm,
lot of people just get stuck on pain and
yeah,
they just cling to it and it becomes a selfish context and their identity,
yeah,
if you will, and they have a very hard time seeing the other side of it.
yeah. So I'm going to backpedal a little bit, because one of the most important things that I've realized is communication,
Mhm.
being extremely important. And when I was younger, I was called, they nicknamed me Motor Mouth. because I would ask a million and one questions, right? And I would just ask and ask and ask and ask. And I love to talk. And my family would always make fun of me because I would say something. And if I was interrupted, I would start from the very beginning again and I would start all over. So they would say, "Don't interrupt her because we know where this is going."
Mhm.
And so I mention that and I bring that up because it's about communication. And I feel that when somebody is going through something, right, and they're holding it within them and they're unsure of what it is, whether it's this anxiety, whether it's depression, whether it's, whatever the challenge may be for them, they're holding that inside of them. And if they're able to communicate and normalize what they're feeling and express it, that's when the healing begins, right? That's when the healing begins. It's about communication
Mhm.
and releasing and letting it out. And I feel that for me, with my anxiety and the experience that I had with that, because I was a communicator, I needed to express that. I had this desire within me to heal. I wanted to. And I understand that not everybody is on that same path.
Mhm.
So people have this anxiety. They're not open to reading these books or saying whatever it is, and they self medicate and they
Mhm.
do whatever it is that they can get through the survival day of their life, right? To get through their day of their life. But I think the most important thing is getting to know yourself, to
Mhm.
really understand and get to know yourself. Why am I feeling this way? Why is there this adrenaline? What is the fear behind it? What is this fear behind it? Because the truth well, my view of this, of what I feel, is that we can heal. You know, we really can heal all aspects of ourselves, body, mind, and soul. We have to be able to have that desire, I think, is first and foremost. And I think that if you don't have that desire, I think that you have to at least communicate and share because you never know if somebody's going to say something that's going to help you and
Mhm.
all of a sudden unfold something that you didn't see within yourself, right? So I don't know if I'm going off track a little bit to the question that you asked. I think I am. But it's it's really about being true to yourself, saying, "Who am I?
Mm.
Who am I? Why am I here? What is my soul's purpose? What am I doing here? I'm not here for pain. I'm not here for suffering. I'm here for learning. I'm here for loving. I'm here for knowledge and wisdom. What can I
Mhm.
learn from this situation?" And just being open to yourself.
Mhm.
I hope that
Yeah.
helps to answer. I'm not quite sure if I went off.
No, I mean, I interviewed, Neil Donald Walsh a couple times on my channel, and there was one time where he was going, through a degree of crisis, and he
Mm.
just started journaling and scribbling, and you just heard this auditory voice that said, "Do you really wanna know, or are you just here to vent?" Something
Ooh,
along those lines, and I think it's what you're describing where a lot of times we just regurgitate all this stuff, and we just have to be curious from what you're saying and find room to ask, "What is this teaching me?" What is this trying to tell me? How could I relate to this in a different way? And a lot of people have a hard time asking. And I know for you, that was a big, transformational part of your journey was surrendering
yeah,
and asking. And so for you, that seemed to be a big pivotal part. But for other people, who really want to connect to spirit, is there a relationship with surrender and being able to receive, stuff too?
yeah. So, in my opinion, I think that the more you work on yourself, the more you heal yourself, the more you get to know you, the
Mhm.
more you can help somebody else, the more you have a clearer connection with spirit. I know people that drink and they hear spirit, they sense spirit, they feel spirit around them. I know that there are people that, you know, do whatever their daily life. They just do things and they can sense and feel spirit around. But for me, I think that is so healing to get to know yourself And for those that are stuck, because not everybody has that desire that I did. Not everybody has that desire to face what they're feeling in that moment. And I think that it will come in time. I will say this from my experience of connecting with those in the spirit world. When we're here because our soul is learning certain lessons, right? This is what allows soul to go through the obstacles that we're going through. But there's so much beauty that
Mhm,
we tend to kind of turn away from because we're so focused
mhm,
on the fear and the anxiety and the depression and all the struggles and obstacles that we go through in life that we miss what's in front of us. We miss all of that. And so I think that if we make the conscious choice to shift our mindset and
mhm,
focus on what we do have control over and how we can manifest more of that into our life, there will be that subtle shift. And I feel that that's communicating with the spirit world. That's telling, or the universe or source, that's saying, I'm ready to make a change within myself. And it's dropping those seeds. It's dropping those seeds for them. There are those that are struggling here that don't have that mindset that I have, or maybe you have that inner desire to want to heal. And I think that that's okay. I do.
mm,
I think that that's okay because we each have a different journey here. And some of us learn while we're here, and some of us need to take it to the next level when we're in spirit to learn.
mhm,
But regardless, we're going to learn. And I think that for us, it's about acceptance of knowing that we're all on a different journey and that we only have control over ourselves and not others who go through certain life situations. And so I feel that this is more about acceptance. And when we really look at people for who they are,
mhm,
we can look at it from a different perspective. We can look at them from love, their struggles that they've gone through, right? Instead of judgment, it's looking at them and saying, wow, you know what? They just haven't found themselves yet. They
mhm,
just haven't found themselves just yet. It's okay.
mm,
And that takes away that anxiety. That
mhm,
takes away that rage, all of those different emotions that we carry. So eventually, when you get to spirit, you have what's called a life review, where you look at your life and you say, wow, I see the path that I took. And now I see why. And boy, was I stubborn. Or, you know, if I would have only done this, but I couldn't see. And now I see why I couldn't see.
mhm,
Uh, that's where healing is going to take place. So it's either going to happen here or it's going to happen there. But eventually, we will all heal.
yeah. And Shelby, it's fascinating because when I do events with you and I see some other, different mediums, I guess everyone has their own style,
Yeah.
delivery, experiences, but there's, mediums connect to different things. Some mediums who are more by nature or the forensic nature really kind of focus on how that person passed and like what happened physically, what was going on. That's like their core focus. And I think obviously people, that's important for people to know the evidential details, of course. But I think for you and a lot of my colleagues who I have additional deeper respect for is that you're able to really broaden that, where you're able to really almost like synergize, their loved one's journey or what they're going through
Yeah.
and really understanding, struggles or mental health or stuff like that. And you're really giving people a different angle to look at those in their life or those who have crossed over. I'm just kind of curious to you, like what you've learned from those in spirit and how, what they have to say regards to,
Yeah.
mental health or people who may challenge us. I know you just gave like a snippet, but from, for a lot of people, we have a lot of difficult personalities, or maybe there's some parts about ourselves that we have a hard time, or what Carl Jung
Mhm.
popularly referred to as the shadow self. I'm
Yeah.
just curious what you've been able to really gather from the spirit realm and how they look at mental health and what they
Mm,
want us to know
yeah.
about it.
That's a beautiful question. And I love that. I thrive on that question because that's where my heart is about the healing, right? So when I'm connecting with those in spirit, the things that they have said in the past that, I mean, I want to share this. not only are they coming forward and helping the sitter, meaning the person that's there having a reading, but they're helping me. I'm learning so much and I'm healing so much from them.
Mhm.
They teach all of us. They teach the client that's in front of me, they teach me. Sometimes I walk away and I say, wow, that was meant for me too. And I know that was meant for me. And I do feel that those in spirit choose who they want to connect with, who will be the best for their sitter, you know? So the things that they have taught me and shared with me is that they take responsibility. They take full responsibility for their actions, their behaviors, the way things unfolded in their physical life. And they come forward and they realize that. And they come forward with apologizing, saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I wasn't there for you. Or I'm sorry that I walked away, or I'm sorry that I couldn't love you the way that you needed me to love you, whatever that may be. But they come through with apologies,
Mhm.
they come through with thank yous, they come through with reminders that of things that are going on in your life and wanting you to know, I'm holding the soul of your baby. I know that you're worried that I'm not going to be here with this delivery of your baby, but I want you to know I'm holding your baby girl and I'm right here. There's so many beautiful messages that they come forward and they share. The biggest thing about mental health, though, that I would say is my gosh, Jake, I have read for so many people because here's I'm going off a little bit, but this is important. Spirit's going to use me in what's in my frame of reference.
Mhm.
So because mental health is in my frame of reference, my experience with, my family and life situations that I've encountered, you know, they're going to use me in that way. So when they come forward, they help me to understand that sometimes they can't just understand here. Sometimes their soul is only supposed to be here for a short period of time, and it's okay. You know, those that are left behind are the ones that are suffering. Sometimes there's a bigger lesson in it. Sometimes they can't heal unless they get to spirit.
Mhm.
That's when they're going to heal. They're going to heal faster. They have showed me, geez, what else have they showed me? That they help other people. My gosh.
On the other yeah, like committees and yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
They help so many other people on the other side, whether they've grown up now and now they help teens and they're helping exactly. They help other people. They're doing their work, or they say they're helping somebody that's here that may be struggling that's here. They'll bring it
Mhm.
forward and then they'll talk about somebody else that's going through a challenging time and that they're helping them. There's so many different things, but each message is absolutely beautiful and so healing. It is.
Yeah.
It is so healing. I have learned so much of a better understanding, and this understanding allowed me to forgive.
Mm.
It allowed me to forgive because it allowed me to realize that there's other family members that I may want them to be on this healing journey the way I was,
Mhm.
but it allows me to surrender, to allow them to be who they are and accept them for where they are in this journey. And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. So it's really about letting go. And the more I let go, the more I get to know myself, the more I
Yeah.
get to heal myself. Yeah,
Lens of perception is a fascinating thing, isn't it?
it is. It is. It's so fascinating. And one of the core things is self development. How can you help another person if you can't help yourself? You have to be able to help yourself. So the more I dive into myself, and it's layers, just when you think, okay, I've got this. I get anxiety. I know anxiety. It's like, oh, you do? Let's test you, you know? And then it's like, okay, we're going to take you further. And that's in all aspects of my life. And, you know, I like it because I learn from it. It allows me to go deeper with myself. And
Mhm.
and in return, I could show up better for my clients. I could show up better for the spirit world.
Mhm.
So it's a win-win for all of us.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. From your journey, meditation really seemed to be profound, and obviously there's a lot of, backings of what really meditation does for the brain and really how it helps. people to really go into those deeper gears of the brain, which is really slower vibratory rates.
Mm,
They put a lot of evidential mediums on, brain scans, and they find that, what maybe dichotomizes an evidential medium, maybe someone else, is that they're very, easily able to switch from gamma waves, which, or maybe you're in the beta waves, to somewhere between those alpha, which is like that cool California vibe, and theta, more that deep meditation. And they
mm.
found that a lot of, intuitives and mediums, usually when they're doing their work are somewhere between alpha and theta. And I'm just wondering, I'm just curious for you, is that something that is hereditary that people could switch gears that quickly, or that's something that you could develop through practice? And if so, is that something that is a part of, your teaching too?
Yes. So I do believe that we all have this ability within us. I think that it is a born, you know, gift, I'll say,
Mhm,
that's there within all of us. Uh, it depends if the soul is ready for that. But can it be taught? 1,000% it could be taught.
right.
But there has to be a desire there. There has to be, if I pull somebody off the street and say, "Hey, let me teach this to you," it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Maybe they'll sit there, they'll learn how to meditate and learn to quiet the mind a little bit. But as far as starting to pick up on their senses, there has to be this want, this need,
Mhm,
and that's what makes everybody different. It's like carrying a tune. We can all sing, but I'm not going to be Celine Dion and ever sing that way. It's just,
mhm.
but I can sing. You may not want to hear me sing, but I could sing.
Ah,
So the ability is there within all of us to a certain degree. And how far do we want to go with that? If I have this desire, this inner desire to say, I want to sing, I want to be a
mhm,
singer. Well, no, I may not be in an arena, singing at a concert with 5,000 people, but I may be, at some kind of stadium somewhere else, or
mhm,
there has to be this inner desire. So can everybody learn this? Yes, to a degree that they can. Yeah. And your soul will speak to you. You will know. It's working with your intuition. I love working with intuition.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's your internal guidance system. That's your navigation. That's Pandora's box. All the answers are right there in there. It's our map. It's everything that is guided for us. That's right there for us. And if we just allow ourselves to understand the language of our intuition and really concentrate and relax and slow down,
Mhm.
it's amazing what's available. It is
Yes.
amazing what's available to us. We're very quick response to quick answers, want this, want that. The mind is constantly going, going, going. We need to take it back a notch. We need to be in
Mhm,
that present moment. And when we allow ourselves to be in that neutral state,
mhm,
that's when everything arises. That's when we can sense, we can feel, we can know.
mhm.
That's when we're using all our abilities.
Yeah. This is a fascinating question, and I really loved all of what you just said, and I know it's gonna help out, more viewers. And this may be something that, we're all trying to grasp. Something that I personally ask sometimes. I certainly understand how we forget things, why we forget things per se, but I'm understand, like, what's the reasoning as to why when we come here in this earth plane, much like you described at a very early age,
Mm.
you had a very strong connection to the spirit realm, and then, that kinda left you, if you will, for the time being, then it came back. And I'm just wondering, what's the point of, forgetting these things if we're meant to
Mm.
remember these things or have it a part of us? I don't know if you ever thought about that, but
No,
just
I
curious.
have, and
Yeah,
I'm thinking about that question while you're asking that, and
yeah.
it's really, really
Yeah, it's maybe something that's developing, but, I mean, I
well.
hypothesize that it's almost kinda like a test and you're giving all the answers. I don't know what you think about that, but
Yeah, yeah, but, what's interesting is we do forget, we really do,
mhm,
but I also feel that because I was just talking about when we quiet the mind,
mhm,
right? That's when the soul speaks. I also feel that, which is a whole other conversation,
mhm,
that's where dreams can come in too,
mhm.
right?
Oh, yeah.
that's where dreams can come in, and you're having these dreams. It's not just only predictions of what you see, of happening, but it's dreams also sharing things with you, or visitors that are coming into your dreams, or, oh, I was there, but I was, in a war, or I saw myself there. There's got to be pieces there, that are coming together in some way. But I don't really know. I don't know if I
Yeah,
have the answer to that question. I
yeah.
don't know. You
So
know?
something to sit with, yeah,
Yeah.
it's fascinating, yeah,
And
yeah.
and I don't know if we're supposed to have all the answers to everything.
Mhm,
Look, I'm going to say this, you and I are part of helping parents heal, that is to me the most devastating thing I think in life. Excuse me, that somebody can go through is the loss of a child.
mhm,
I can't fathom it. I can't, it is devastating. Do I feel that there was a soul's purpose there for that? There's a part of me that does, and then there's a part of me that doesn't.
yeah,
I conflict back and forth with that because I feel that, yes, our souls have a purpose, our souls have a plan. And I feel that when we go through this devastating, or when parents go through this devastating experience, does it allow their soul to grow in some way? Yes, it does. But I still can't wrap my head around why we were given that particular experience.
mhm,
We
yeah,
have so many experiences, why does that have to be an experience? Can't we learn in a different way? But that's me again trying to control and not surrender, so there's yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I don't know if I have the answers of why we are to forget certain things.
mhm,
What I do say to some clients, and I don't know this to be true, but what I say to some clients if they struggle within relationships, when am I going to find the love of my life? When am I going to get married? When am I going to have children? What I do say to them sometimes is, how do you know you haven't experienced that before? Why are you fighting yourself that you want to experience that in this lifetime? Is it because it's familiar to you, because you've done it in a past life
mhm,
and you want to? How do you know that this time you said, wait a minute, this is going to be my challenge. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to want this, and it's not going to go the way that I want. But this is where my soul is supposed to learn. This is the experience my soul is supposed to learn. So you're coming to find out answers. Why am I, when am I going to find the love of my life? When? Maybe you were a mom or dad in a past life and you had this beautiful family. And this time around, you said, you know what? I think there's more that my soul needs to know here.
mm,
Right. So there's so many avenues we can go through with this. But do I understand, or do I know the reason why we don't remember?
mhm.
No.
Yeah, it's a fascinating concept, and
Yeah.
I think, there's gonna be time where things become clearer, and it's
Oh,
just,
yeah.
step by step, I certainly do believe in a guided life, that things are just not randomly popping up, but, within time. Shelby, we really learned a lot from your personal stories, your hard-earned wisdom, really what spirit, has in store for us, and really what they want us to really remember and show. Is there one, final message that's really coming to you to share, to viewers, during this time that, is important to share at this time?
I think the most important thing, 2 things, is to be honest with yourself, because a lot of us run. We run from our emotions and we don't sit with it. So I think to be clear, to be honest, and communication is so important to me. It is so important because that's the foundation of healing, is to communicate, to express, you know? Somebody's going to understand, somebody's going to relate. And if they don't understand, they don't relate, you'll open their eyes to something for them to inquire about, to really sit and ponder and think about. And that's where we heal. So I think those are the 2 most important things. And love, of course, love. Don't hate everyone, you know? Look at people from a different lens. Understand their why to why they are the way they are. What life, eh, you know, what life situations did they go through? We all express ourselves so differently. So try to go deep to understand what can be the underlying cause. for the way they behave, or their struggles, or, wow, look at these beautiful people that are here that are helping us, these light workers, these old souls. What are they here to teach us? What are they there to show us?
Mm, yeah.
So that's the
And
reason.
I think also have room for more voices to come into
Mhm.
our head, that go beyond the voice of agony or pain, but the voice of love from spirit, from downloads, from wisdom, and developing a degree of space for those things to come, through us too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Clear the mind. Yeah, so the soul can speak. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
Shelby, for people interested in booking a reading with you or,
mhm.
engaging in some of your powerful classes or, following up on some workshops that you may be having, where's the best place to find all things Shelby May?
Yep, that's it, Shelby May. Right on my
Shelby,
website. It's Shelby, and there's a hyphen between my first and last name, so shelby-may.com.
right?
Yeah.
And your socials as well. You're on Instagram, Facebook too, right?
Yeah, both of those. Yeah, I
Yeah.
am. Yeah,
Cool.
so the
And I highly
mhm,
encourage, anyone to just get in touch with Shelby if that's really calling you. She's the real deal. And
mhm.
really, I've seen a lot of people and she is really up there. She's incredible, and I couldn't, recommend a colleague more than the one in front of me. So, Shelby, thank you so much for your generous time
Thank
and
you.
all that you've shared and the person that you are, and it's such an inspiring journey that's still continuing. I'm
That's right.
sure each day there's something new to find, right?
And that's right, and I have to thank you, Jake, for being a part of it because you're part of my journey. We connect, and I'm so grateful for you and, your wisdom and all your knowledge and your books and yeah, so thank you. Thank you for being a friend. Yes.